the foot of the huge peaks of the Himalayas is Pokhara. It is from here that we begin our journey through Nepal. At one time, this high valley contained 7 freshwater lakes named Pokhari, and they gave this holiday paradise its present name. Legend has it that the god Shiva once visited the inhabitants of the valley, but no one greeted him. In his anger, he sent a tidal wave that consumed them. In the past, Pokhara was an important trading link between India and Tibet. But the trading of salt and wool came to an end after Tibet closed its doors to the outside world. Consequently, this small city became less important, but several Tibetan refugees came to live in the community. Today, the city has 100,000 inhabitants. Its population is extremely tolerant, and both the Buddhist and Hindu faiths exist side by side. Pokhara is located in the center of Nepal, and its tranquil calm is captivating. There's much to discover here. The Davis waterfall disappears into the ground, and after 200 meters, emerges again to unite with the Seti. This impressive natural spectacle is very popular with sightseers. The second largest lake in Nepal owes its dimensions to a dam at its eastern end. The city's simple dwellings are built directly up to the banks of the lake. The Pewa Lake contains many fish and is also a holiday paradise. Small rowing boats are available for hire. Whether Mount Everest or Annapurna, the mountains fascinate everyone. The Himalayas are also known as the roof of the world. Nepal is a fascinating country, a mix of jungle and everlasting ice. In 1973, the Royal Chitwan Park became the first Nepalese nature reserve, 100 years after the inauguration of Yellowstone Park. Located amidst tropical jungle, this national park was founded as a reservation for the threatened great Indian rhinoceros. The plains extend for more than 1,000 square kilometers, and 70% is covered by sal forest and 20% by elephant grass. Some years ago, this region's wild animals were hunted, resulting in the slaughter of countless tigers and rhinoceroses that were almost completely wiped out. True adventure, a safari by elephant. The mahouts skillfully lead the ambling giants through the bush. Travelling through the jungle on the back of an elephant offers good protection from rhinoceroses and other predators. The elephant is a safe means of transport here. In the past 10 years, this region's rhinoceros population has declined from around 2,000 to only 100. Poaching is dealt with by the army. Today, the national park is the biggest tourist attraction, and the ride on an elephant belongs to it. Jeep safaris are a particularly useful feature of the park. They travel through dense forests in which there are around 550 varieties of birds. Tracing animal tracks is a vital part of the Jeep tour, constantly on the lookout for wild animals. We travel by boat on the Narayani River. Here, there are crocodiles and dolphins. If we're lucky, we may actually spot them. The evening sun sets slowly above the river. The strange sounds of night come from the dense jungle. Kathmandu, melting pot of both race and religion. A metropolis in the heart of the Kingdom of Nepal. A country of snow-covered mountains inhabited by the gods. In the center of the city is the ancient palace of Hanuman Doka, of which only a small number of its 35 courts are open to the public. The large relief of Kala Bhairava, the frightening manifestation of the god Shiva in the guise of an avenger, looks down on those below. The home of the gods is vibrant yet reflective. More than 700,000 people live in the metropolis of Earth's most ancient kingdom. It was only a few decades ago that ancient Nepal opened up its borders. Until then, owing to the command of the ruling Gurkha dynasty, the home of the divine was totally isolated. Kumari Chowk is the residence of the living goddess Kumari, who is duly selected from childhood. She is not allowed to leave here until puberty. Her task is to affirm the king his power the sign of divine destiny. Traditional ceremonies are repeatedly celebrated, such as the Festival of the Children, that is a symbol of fertility and sexual purity. The foundation of Kathmandu, formerly known as Kantipur, took place during the first third of the 8th century. This majestic city was at its zenith between the 16th and 18th centuries. The worship of the popular god Matsyendranath, who is very well known to the Tibetans, dates back to the 10th century. Day and night there is much activity in the narrow alleys and streets of the old town. Kathmandu has grown so much that only the holy Bagmati River now separates it from Patan. Patan, City of Beauty. Nepal's second largest city has retained much of its original character, thanks to its 300 monasteries and temples. Patan is one of the oldest settlements in Kathmandu Valley, and during the 15th century was the capital of one of 3 kingdoms. Two huge lions guard the entrance of the former royal palace, which originated from a monastery complex. But when Prithvi Narayan Shah conquered the ancient realms, Patan soon lost its political significance. Each of the ruling dynasties built the various Buddhist and Hindu pagodas and altars, according to their religious belief. Here, religion is all. Opposite the royal palace is the Chayasilin Deval, an elegant octagonal temple that is not of traditional Nepal architecture. The former centre of one of the earliest 3 kingdoms contains the Hindu Kumbheshwara Pagoda, one of the country's oldest buildings dedicated to the god Shiva. Tower-like Mahabuddha temple is adorned with several terracotta figures and ornaments, and is different to conventional Nepalese architecture. The temple was totally destroyed during an earthquake in 1933 and was subsequently completely rebuilt, along with its hundreds of terracotta figures. In earlier times, the Kwa Bahal Monastery was the administrative centre of trade in Tibet. Its shining gilded copper plates soon gave it the name the Golden Temple. Today, nobody, besides the temple guards, lives in the houses around the courtyard of the complex, which is guarded from golden figures of Buddha. Bhaktapur is the third ancient regal city of the 30-kilometre-long Kathmandu Valley that has always been a prosperous trading route between China, Tibet and India. Through the Golden Gate of Sundoka is the old royal palace complex. The Torana above the gate is richly gilded and features the 10-armed goddess Taleju and her loyal guards. At one time, royal residences were situated around the courtyard, of which today only one bathing basin and a few artistic gargoyles remain. On the edge of Durbar Square is the Palace of 55 Windows, a masterpiece of traditional wood carving. This memorial pillar is dedicated to King Bhupatindramala. During construction, it was damaged, but was immediately rebuilt. The octagonal Chayasilin Mandap temple that is located in front of the eastern area of the palace was destroyed during a large earthquake, but was rebuilt in 1911. The elongated and slightly sloping Takapala Tole Square is dominated by the huge three-story Dattatreya Mandir pagoda. In a nearby alley is a building that was constructed in typical Nehwa style and features the famous peacock window. Bhaktapur was featured in Bertolucci's Little Buddha. On the Square of the Potters, everything is created from the black clay of the potters and immediately offered for sale. The tallest pagoda in Nepal is located on Taumadi Square. This 5-story temple is 30 meters high. With its guards of stone, the Nayatapola temple sheds a contemplative ambience across the medieval-looking city. Located on a 1,400-meter high hill, Swayan Bunat is a Buddhist monastery complex and one of the most interesting sights in Nepal. Nepal's oldest stupa dates back to the 5th century and is entered from an easterly direction up a staircase that contains 365 steps. Endless rows of prayer mills and religious images are the instruments of the people's deep faith. Light and shadow reflect on the centuries-old places of worship, and all is peace and tranquility. Many legends relate to the establishment of this sacred place that dates back to the earliest origins of Kathmandu Valley that was once a lake. A yard containing votive stupas contrasts well with the huge buildings. The closely packed, tiny stone towers look like a miniature forest. Innumerable small temples indicate the popularity of this place that is also visited by those of the Hindu faith. Side by side, numerous gods are worshipped here. Swayan Bunat has been repeatedly subjected to earthquakes, and in 1349 by Muslim attack. But it has always been rebuilt to an even higher degree of beauty. The valley's inhabitants have always demonstrated their strong religious belief with outstanding buildings. Northeast of Kathmandu is the temple complex of Pashupatinath. For the followers of the Hindu religion, this is the most holy place in Nepal. It is also known as the Benares of Nepal. Each year, thousands of pilgrims come to purify themselves in the waters of the holy city. The exact date of its origin is not known, but it is believed that King Haridatta Varmas erected the first sanctuary here in the year 365 AD. The faithful burn their dead on the banks of the Bagmati River, and to close the circle of nature, scatter the ashes of the deceased into its waters. Legend also has it that on the riverbanks, Shiva and Parvati took the form of gazelles. But Buddhists believe that this is stretching the imagination a little far. Further upstream, the faithful take a ritual bath and sacrifice flowers to the gods. But there is much controversy about the value of this. The sadhus are holy men. They have given up worldly life and have long beards and wild-looking hair. Hordes of pilgrims visit the many temple complexes that are dedicated to the god Shiva, the master of the animal kingdom, and also the patron saint of the Hindu realm. Even the Tibetan Queen supports the maintenance of this temple city, and each year contributes a very generous donation. The devoted worship and utter prayers. The caste system and religious hierarchies have no legal basis here, but they form the basis of the country's social structure. Bodhnat is the home of the monks that were driven out of Tibet by the Chinese. This small city is the center of the Buddhist faith. Little Tibet. In the center of the city is the country's largest sacred building, 40 meters high. Its dimensions are indeed impressive, but from an artistic point of view, this stupa is relatively plain. The temple is surrounded by spacious dwellings with carved wooden windows, an indication of the past wealth enjoyed here, thanks to its location on the most important trading route to Tibet. Daily life goes on in and around the temple complex, and numerous traders offer colorful Tibetan souvenirs. The temples are encircled by a wall of prayer mills. From dawn until dusk, both the young and old of Tibet offer prayers around the stupa. China claimed Tibet as its own. Consequently, the spiritual and worldly leader of the Tibetans, the Dalai Lama, was forced to leave Tibet along with his many followers. Statues of white elephants and their riders flank the steps of 3 pedestals which lead to the base of the stupa that has the exact form of a white hemisphere. sacred tower crowns the stupa, which is said to have the power of 100 million Buddhas, so that each wish of the faithful may become reality. The eyes of Buddha constantly watch over the faithful, who feel protected here and are able to practice their religion without constraint. Hundreds of colourful prayer banners adorn the sacred building that was originally the burial place and sacred storage area of the relics of the historical Buddha. Changu Narayan, the gem of Nepal. Designated as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO and the oldest sanctuary in Kathmandu Valley. Situated 1,450 meters on a mountain north of Bhaktapur, this village is home to many skillful artists and woodcarvers. Highly decorated masks and dolls are also offered to the faithful pilgrims, most of whom find it difficult to resist the splendid souvenirs. Agriculture also has an important role to play in this region. It gives the population a life that is free from poverty and hunger. And from time to time, it's possible to watch an artist at work. Of particular interest is the captivating Garuda Narayana temple, with its painted wooden sculptures, many shrines and heavily gilded roof. The Hindu religion also plays an important role here. The roofs of the temple complex are richly decorated with wood carvings. This was an early place of worship for the god Vishnu, who, in the guise of Narayan, was creator of a new, universal age. This place is a perfect location for a sanctuary. Situated 1,550 meters above sea level, on the final summit of a remote mountain ridge. Numerous statues of gods and demons indicate the peak of the art of stone masonry that existed here in the past, with elephants and also lions with birds' heads. The sacred temple complex overlooks the entire Kathmandu Valley and can be seen from everywhere. An earthly residence of the gods. The small Newar town of Sanku is just as it was a century ago. It lies at the foot of a mountain range that was once traversed by ancient caravan routes. The prosperity of this former trading centre was at its height many years ago, and today it is a quiet, sleepy town. Hidden in a canyon and located on top of a mountain creek, Dakshin Kali stands guard over the valley. But its idyllic appearance is deceptive. This wonderful place is dedicated to the bloody goddess Kali. This place of worship is dedicated to one of the mightiest goddesses of this region, the Southern Kali. Dakshin means south, and Kali stands for the destructive image of Shiva's wife Parvati. This is a place of constant hustle and bustle. But the temple of the goddess Kali is not popular with everyone. On Tuesdays and Saturdays, animals are brought here for slaughter. The lighting of the fumigants is the prelude to ritual sacrifices. Here, chickens and goats are butchered during the duly allotted days of sacrifice. During this time, it's best for animal lovers and those of a sensitive disposition to avoid this area, as the complex becomes a place of ritual slaughter and the spilling of blood. The head of each animal is severed by a special priest in front of an image of the goddess Kali. The animal's blood is sacrificed to the goddess. The dead animals are then cooked for the faithful and served at a public dinner in nearby meadows. Sometimes the rush for food is almost overwhelming. On a small hill, there is a temple dedicated to Kali's mother, for whom sacrifices were also made. The people here hope that their wishes come true, and at the same time that an unhappy soul will be freed from its incarnation as an animal. In a nearby forest, the practical becomes at one with the enjoyable. The meat of the sacrificed animals is prepared and eaten. It all reaches a successful conclusion with light-hearted fun and joyful dance. And suddenly, the spirit is cleansed. Thanks to its location, Kirtipur is one of the most charming Newar towns in Kathmandu Valley. The elongated city of Kirtipur was built in around 1099 AD. Initially, it was an independent kingdom and subsequently became a fortified city. The city is located on a hill that has two peaks, each one of which is crowned by a sanctuary: the Chilandeo Stupa and the Uma Maheshvara Temple. This 17th century building was badly damaged by an earthquake and is dedicated to Shiva and his wife Parvati. It was renovated in 1934. The strategically positioned fortified city was once surrounded by a wall. Repeatedly, its people successfully repelled enemy attack. But in the year 1766, Prithvi Narayan Shah and his Gurkha troops succeeded in conquering the city and forced its inhabitants to surrender. These proud people were severely punished for their courageous resistance. The men of Kirtipur had their noses cut off, thus the name City of the Noseless. Here, all is calm, a peaceful place of serene tranquility. The condition of these tall old buildings built of wood and stone has deteriorated because of the harshness of the weather. Most of the city's 8,000 inhabitants are farmers, the remainder being tradesmen, labourers and retailers. The close communal life of the village is enjoyed by one and all, especially when all the day's work has been done. The people go about their work on the streets and in the lower rooms of their houses. Thankfully, Kirtipur's medieval appearance has been well preserved. The famous Chobar Canyon is negotiated via a precarious chain-link bridge. Legend has it that Bodhisattva Manjushri cut this canyon with his sword to drain the lake that once filled Kathmandu Valley. Panauti is located at the junction of two rivers that were once the crossing point of important trading routes. Nearly all of its historical centre has been well maintained and its inhabitants enjoy a rural way of life. Even today, a number of fascinating buildings and large temples in which thousands of people once made sacrifices demonstrate the former glory of this intriguing city. the eastern end of the town of Banepa is the Kandesvari Mandir, a tranquil temple complex on the edge of what is now a modern town. Legend has it that this place was once ruled by the buffalo demon Kand, who was subsequently defeated by Parvati. The high quality of these wooden carvings more than compensates for the gold and rich colours of other temples in this region. Our final destination, Dhulikhel. This idyllic village is situated at an altitude of 1,650 meters above sea level, at the end of the valley on the road to Tibet. The wealth of former times is indicated by the village's dwellings and temples that are covered by a fascinating array of wood carvings. Everywhere there are tiny altars and images of gods that serve to protect the village and its inhabitants. It was only a few decades ago that Nepal opened its borders. Until then, the home of the divine was totally isolated because of the requirements of the ruling Gurkha dynasty. Compared with the liveliness of Kathmandu, Dhulikhel is like a ghost town. Here, life in the mountains is meditational. This Newar town was also an important destination on the trading route to Tibet. Today, the tourist industry is slowly beginning to have an effect here. Everyday life is determined by the gods. The Kali temple that is situated just outside the village is visited frequently to satisfy the gods and to seek their blessing. Precious wooden carvings adorn the pagoda, from which there are magnificent views across the valley to the breathtaking 8,000-meter-high Himalayan mountains. "200 years ago, an Englishman wrote, 'Kathmandu Valley contains as many temples as dwellings, and as many gods as humans.' The customs of the people in the kingdom on the roof of the world may seem somewhat strange. But this land of jungle and eternal snow has developed according to its own rich traditions and beliefs. Those who come here are rewarded by an overwhelming mountain world and an abundance of glorious nature. And the people of this region are more than happy with their way of life. The mysterious Hindu realm of Nepal is one of the last paradises on earth. A once forbidden land located between India and China. The evening sun goes down slowly on the snow-covered Himalayas. The journey through this fairy tale land ends here, at the foot of these mighty giants, amidst a wonderful world in which the gods are still very much alive.